Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another chapter of Experiencer Interviews. And today we've got another amazing story, another amazing soul coming to us from Australia. We have Saly Elka on board today. Saly has worked psychically her entire life, as well as navigate the astral realms from a very early age. Saly is a contactee and abductee, as well as an extra-dimensional channeler. She channels a number of reptilian beings with whom she works very closely, a Mantid geneticist, her Essassani children, and a number of feline guides. She is able to utilize the tarot and energy to bring forth communication beyond this dimension. Saly has appeared on shows like Open Minds with Gloria Canning, Intuitive Focus with Brooke Hadland, and on the well-known Kevin Moore Show. She has also created a YouTube channel called Gaia Intuitive for the purpose of being able to try and verbalize her experiences and help dispel misinformation. Her mission is to open her heart to us to be an authentic guide by helping us move toward a more harmonic, energetic state of being. She hopes, as a collective, we can rediscover our true origins and what the human being is truly capable of. Let us rise up as a collective consciousness towards love, compassion, truth, and courage. So, Saly, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me. I'm very excited to be here.
Thank you. Yeah, we've shared, well, you talked about some of your experiences offline, and I just wanted to maybe ask you what happened to you as a kid?
So I've spoken a fair bit about it beginning with the dreams around the age of 5 or 6. What I haven't ever spoken about publicly, which I wanted to speak about today, was the first experience that happened, which I believe probably triggered these occurrences to begin. So this very first thing was quite traumatic for me, actually, and it was something that I have only experienced a handful of times. What it was a somewhat of like a nightmare or something like that in the dream state, where I did wake up, I was fully conscious, my whole body was paralyzed. I think I was probably about 5 or 6, and what I remember was this, it's going to sound crazy, but like a pin cushion it's almost like my head was that, and something was being, I just have this memory of something being like injected into my temple region. This was so traumatic that I think I really did like block out the entire experience, and that last bit was all I was left with before I just remember screaming and screaming for my mum, and eventually it felt like eternity, but she eventually came in, and that was that. And it was just that I had a bad nightmare, and that was kind of put to the side and forgotten about. Now, after that, the dreams were constant and every night, and really have been ever since. And the dreams themselves they fluctuate. So there's all different kinds, but, it's always been, since that first beginning, a sense of having to, almost like I was training. So I'm escaping something, I'm being put through some sort of system, I'm running away, I have a target, I have to, it's almost like military boot camp in some senses, and other times it's like being sat down and interrogated for what seems like hours or days on end, mental warfare type things. So they really have varied a lot in content.
Wow. Now, coming back to the pincushion, was it like something you saw in front of you, or did you feel that your head was the pincushion?
Both. So it was, visually, it wasn't like, I think I saw it more in my inner eye. So it was almost as real as, like, it was, I could see it with my eyes open to it as I was also experiencing it. And to be honest with you, I didn't really hold on to that and think about that again, because it was just traumatic for me. And I had the same experience again when I was in my 20s, and I woke up having an anxiety attack from it, paralyzed again. I had the same experience in my 30s where I don't know why, I'm very inquisitive, but for some reason when I wake up from those, I just want to forget about it. They feel horrible. And it wasn't until I watched one of your interviews the other day that I actually consciously sat back and started to think about that one pincushion dream. And the more I thought about it and sat with it, the more I could feel that focus in my temple. And it was like it was all, localized to that one point. And I could really feel like I was being invaded. Like I didn't want that. And it was, that was the experience. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, did you feel like pain when you woke up in that area?
Not physically, no.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now,
But
sometimes
like I said, I was 5 years old, and my memory of that is pretty, not great at best. So I think a lot of us have, we distort memories, and the memories themselves become distorted every time we go back to them. So it's something that's really hard to go back and remember that. But because it has happened again, and it left quite a significant, like I know the feeling. Yeah.
Did you ever go through like paranormal events as a kid?
Yeah, lots actually. So some, like there were little things, where I remember walking down the street and holding my dad's hand, and I closed my eyes for just a couple of seconds and opened them and looked up, and I was holding the other hand was holding someone, and it was a stranger. Yeah. And I'd felt I just held on to my dad's hand, closed my eyes, opened it, and I was holding on to this man. And I looked up, and my heart like dropped, and I went, and I looked behind me, and my dad was, 10 meters behind me, and had just kind of looked at me and was like, oh, like almost like, what are you doing with this stranger? Like, what are you doing? Come back here, kind of thing. And I guess I went, okay, and went back to him, and he didn't speak. He didn't say anything. And I didn't know what to say because I was just terrified by what just happened. Am I going crazy? And I just didn't speak about that. And it was never spoken of. And it was just a very, very strange experience. I remember as well, we'd go on long car rides up to the countryside to visit my grandparents as children. And I'd sit in the back of the car and I'd close my eyes. And I don't really know what I was doing back then. I didn't know what I was doing, but what I wanted to do was, I don't know why, but I would have been somewhere between, this happened for years, between the age of, we'll say, 5 and 15. But really, like, I'd close my eyes and try to feel like what it would feel like to be dead or something, to be completely, I don't know. And I'd take myself out of my body in these car rides, and I'd be like out of my body in this void. And I don't know how else to describe it, but it was this void, and it wasn't black and it wasn't white, and it was everything at the same time. And it was encompassing of everything. And it was almost like this energetic void. And I still take myself there regularly. Like it's something that I've been able to do from early on.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now the thing with the man, that's pretty scary. Now the thing that freaks me out about your story is you don't have a lot of memories prior to the age of 12, you said.
Yeah. So I don't know whether this is due to look, my parents separated at the age of 12. I think that it was quite traumatic for me because of the time that it happened, which was right at the age of, puberty, and when I had my hormones going everywhere and I was really trying to discover and understand myself. So that wasn't helpful, but it doesn't really explain why the memories, were quite vague and like far few between before that. So I'm not too sure.
Did you have fear of the dark as a kid? You know, the normal monster under the bed?
Yeah, actually I did. And I still can't sleep with my feet out because like I'm just so scared something's going to grab my feet. Even as an adult, I'm like, nope. If I have to, I'll tell you a paranormal experience. I know you don't want me so bring me back. Okay. Bring me back to where you want. But one of the paranormal experiences I did have was in my probably like 19, 20. And I was on my bed and I was watching TV and the light was off, I believe. Oh, I always get confused with the light. It could have been on because I remember I got up and then turned the light on. So I think it might have been off to begin with, but either way, I had Foxtel at the time and I was laying on bed watching television and I'd fallen asleep and I woke up and I could hear this elevator music playing, this strange, like weird music. And I looked over and the remote was on the other side of the bed, like on the pillow. And it was face up. And I looked at the TV and it was started going through, like it was on its own going through and it was on like the music channel and it was skipping through. And I picked up the remote much like this, I suppose, and just held it in my hand like that. And I remember holding it and being like, I'm not imagining this. And it went down, I think 3 or 4 and then stopped. And the music that it played, it started playing. And then I heard this kind of like voice and it said, I am the devil, I am the devil, I am the devil. Said it 3 times. And I just went, that's fucking scary. And my dog as well, I had a Ridgeback, a big dog. And she was under the bed cowering and I grabbed her collar and had to drag her up onto the bed to sleep with me and I was terrified. So I told my mum and my mum said, you know what, Sal, what you give focus to and what you pay attention to will only grow. So if this is something that's going to be, if this is something that's causing you fear, don't give it your attention because it's going to expand that. And I guess I kind of realized, you know, like these weren't new kind of concepts to me. So I just kind of went, okay, well, and I didn't really think about it too much again. I'm aware of the experience. I wasn't too concerned or anything like that. Yeah.
Almost like the Poltergeist movie thingy.
You know, I've always had like a weird sense of like strength. So even though things kind of might freak me out on a human level, I think deep down I have a lot of courage and it's not something that ever worried me, whether it was, you know, like lurking in my consciousness or anything like under attack. I was never concerned about that.
Okay. Now, okay, so we're up to the age of 12. When did your experiences start?
Which experiences? So
well, let's say the ones with the because I think you started getting abducting astrally.
Yeah, I think that the more I've analyzed my experience, the pincushion thing and some of that early on stuff, that potentially could have been connected to maybe the greys or the grey line being maybe the Essassani line, because I do have Essassani children. But I also feel a very, very strong reptilian energy there. So it also could have been the red group that I work with currently. But that's obviously only in hindsight. Mm-hmm. In terms of like a lot of my guides and things that I've connected with, that's only been in my 30s and I think I became very aware of them in my mid-20s when my psychic development started really escalating and pushing through. And I think my own curiosity and studies and things really helped and developed. And then once I moved into like really actively working with those things, it was just a very quick like process that just happened. I've spoken to you about this. I think from memory, one of the first connections that I became very conscious of that popped into my mind's eye, that I started really like connecting with and speaking with telepathically, was the Mantis. So yeah, and now that Mantis actually originally appeared as a grey for such a split second, and then just morphed into the Mantis, and I've only ever seen it as the Mantis since. And yeah, he's an absolutely beautiful being, a beautiful energy. Originally, for probably about 6 months, I was only seeing his face, his head. Generally, that's how I do see him. However, I've had experiences in the astral or in the dream states where I'm interacting with it consciously, and it's been doing work on my body. So I have been able to see a little bit more of like its top half in those experiences, but nothing too lucid. Yeah.
Now, how did he appear to you? Like, was it in the physical? Where did this happen?
No, so this is first, all of my connections generally were like in the astral or in my mind's eye, telepathically, like hearing, seeing, feeling, knowing, pretty much all of them. And so they were all just being activated really at once. So it was like, I think upon the first few times of contact, it was really just visuals. After that, there was a little bit of telepathic communication. And then after that, I got a little eager and kind of really tried to like integrate that energy on a much deeper level. And I started experiencing like physical sensations through meditative experiences with the Mantis, where I'd start uncontrollably, like I couldn't control it, like clicking my teeth or my jaw, or my eyelids would flutter for like a couple of minutes without stopping. And I think that at that point in time, I went, whoa. And I then focused on a range of other things, not just that, but I was also heavily invested in, you know, like my energy work and my other connections and my dreams. And so there was not just the development of that alone.
Now, what type of communication, what do you say to a Mantid?
Well, I suppose it's like with any connection, it takes a little bit of time, at least in my own personal experiences, to I'm quite aware of my ego and their ego's ability to distort things so easily. And so a lot of the time, I mean, since I was very young, I was always in my mind, creative and creating and experiencing. And, you know, it's like when you meet someone for the first time, you don't go in and ask them the most in-depth question about the universe. And sometimes it's nice to just experience the energy of that being and just, I suppose, energetically get to know one another. And it wasn't so much that I had crazy mind expanding questions, that it was really more just like I was honored and very honored and very I took it very seriously. Like I was very respectful of the connection. It wasn't something that I wanted to to lose or to disrespect. And I always have been really happy for them to develop in their own time.
Could you describe how the mantid looked like? You know, the eyes, the mouth.
Yeah, it was, to be honest, like fairly what you would look where if you Google like mantis head, fairly like that, but a little bit bigger, I think, on top, and not so, maybe like, it's hard to tell. It's hard to tell, because I'm also aware that my personal, like, how I perceive them may not be 100% accurate as to what they look like. It may be that I'm kind of like pulling together a bit of an idea, or that they, like I said, originally showed me themselves as the grey. So who really knows what their true form is? I don't see it as like, it is a little bit like green, but a lot kind of like yellowy brown as well. Okay. And really, really big eyes.
So would they be round, or would they like be the normal like teardrop shaped?
They're probably a little bit in between both.
You said the mantid was a geneticist.
Yes.
Could you, like, how do you know that?
Yeah. So I was connecting with this mantis for probably about 3 or 4 years that I was conscious of. And then I was able to work with a channel and mentor of mine, and friend, who was able to get some information for me to help, I suppose, like put some of these pieces together, because there was a lot that I was experiencing, and I was really struggling to kind of fill in the gaps and understand why I was having some of these experiences with these beings. And he was able to just help me on a few pieces of key information that really helped tie things in together. So the mantis is working with my, basically genetically, right? So with the Essassani race, on correcting their genetic line so that their future line is free of any, major disease and disharmony and things like that. So that's the main reason for the connection.
Now, how do you know that you do have Essassani kids? Have you seen them?
Yes.
Okay.
I've seen them. I've met them. I then later on had this information confirmed again. I have also had a lot of physical things going on with my body that I never really put, 2 and 2 together about that, but it makes a lot of sense after realizing the Essassani connections, the trauma that my physical body here has gone through.
Okay, so did you have like phantom pregnancies? That seems to be a theme that comes back.
I wouldn't describe it as a phantom pregnancy, but definitely, like, say, strange things like bleeding for months, or nonstop, or not at all for a year or so, having going through 6 to 12 months on end of like daily excruciating pain, which could be likened to like that of birth contractions. I've had a son, so I know what that feels like. So yeah, quite a bit of trauma down there, a lot of scar tissue and things like that. They've done a lot of internal examinations where they found a lot of scar tissue and things like that. Yeah.
Yeah, there seems to be something there for sure. I do have friends that went through the similar processes, let's say. It's a little bit different than yours, but yeah, they do have scarring down there, so it's a bit sad. Now, so when does the red reptilian come into play?
So the red reptilian, and I love talking about him because he's probably, I feel his energy at such a deep soul level. It feels like almost like he's a part of me somehow. But I always experienced and felt for as long as I can remember his energy, but I didn't know that it was him. And I just thought that I was connected to something somewhere, maybe in another density or something like that, maybe a higher density. There was like an energetic connection, and they were guiding me. That I just kind of, but I never really had any kind of visual or knowing more than that. I've seen him in my astral before many times over the years, and he would help me, guide me, but it was always depicted as just kind of like I'd never see features. It was always just the presence of this being. So then flip forward, and as well, I should point out that I never looked into anything regarding reptilian of nature because of I like looking at all sides of things, right? And I knew deep down that there was a lot of distorted misinformation about reptilians, and I just didn't want to enter into that, knowing that it was going to be so heavily fabricated and distorted. And it's just like, where do you even begin? And it was also, I suppose, on a strange level, very alluring to me. And for that reason, I thought I'm going to almost like, I don't know, like if you did a drug and you thought, holy shit, this is amazing, but I can't do this again because I'll get hooked. So I was like, I just want to stay away from that and focus on my own consciousness, expanding myself, doing my inner work, my healing, and developing the connections I have with, my Essassani children and things like that. But I had a very, very lucid experience one night where I was taken, and I don't know whether, when I say I was taken, I was very much on board with this. I went through the process and I was there. And in this experience, I believe I could have been potentially off planet. But wherever I was, this felt like their home. This felt like their place. And at one point in time, I was laying down, and this was just after I'd met him. But and that was through. So basically, what happened was, in the experience, I was terrified, and I'd found this place where I was kind of just standing, and I was alone, what I thought was alone, and I was watching these, like 12, 15-foot reptilians storm past in the background, and there was like hundreds of them, and I was just watching them, and I was terrified, and I hid. And I was just thinking, like, please don't see me, like, please don't find me, please. So like, I just don't want you to see me. And then I felt on right next to me the presence of something, and it just said, it kind of almost, it didn't laugh, but the energy was humorous. And it was like, what do you mean don't look? I like, it was almost like he was like, I see you, you're right here, I've got you, you're okay. Like, it was like, but it was a bit of like humor as to the fact that I was so naive to sit there and be like, oh, I hope they don't see me. And then he's just kind of like very telepathically advanced, kind of, it's okay, you're safe, but I can see you and we're communicating. And then after that, I was laying down, and he put his hands on my feet, on the base of my feet. And it felt like someone was literally sucking on my feet. but like one big suck, like on each one, like giant suctions. And it went on for what felt like maybe a couple of minutes. And it was honestly the most strangest, lucid, weirdest experience that I'd ever felt. I woke up and I could still feel them on my feet. Like I could still feel him touching them, and it was strange. And at the time, I was suffering from really, really heavy cystic acne. So like from here all the way down, thick, very red, very sore. The type of cystic acne that would take, even in the best case scenario, maybe a few weeks to completely heal over if it all decided to heal at the one time on the spot. So I woke up and this was 50% cleared. Then within a few weeks, it had really just pretty much dissipated to the point that everything had gone. And I really only have had one breakout since then, and it was when I was in hospital.
Wow. So you had a healing. That's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
So after that experience with the reptilian, I realized that, so I saw him and I stood up next to him and I was against his body, and he was like, he was red, he had horns, he had wings, and it was something that I'd never seen before depicted anywhere. And I just felt like incredibly stupid, really, because I was like, people are going to think I'm talking about like Satan. Like I felt like that typical, image of the devil that we have. And I was just like, I can't tell anyone this. This is ridiculous. So I actually didn't speak about it at all. But the connection and the energy just kept stimulating me to such a degree that I was on YouTube one day and I'm just doing my study as normal, and this person pops up and it was like Reptilian channel. And I, being in the community and knowing who some of these channels are and things like that, and I'd never heard of this person, and I thought, who is this? And I watched his very, very like blunt, straightforward, upfront videos, and was quite taken back because I was like, wow, this is intense. But at the same time, I was like, wow, like I'm so drawn to not only this person, but the message and the energy and their content. And I still again sat on it for like another 3 months before reaching out to them, because I was very cautious, and I'm somebody who likes to confirm those innate feelings and things like that. I'm very intuitive, but I like to just not rush into things. So I eventually reached out to him, and he became very fundamental in some of the learnings and teachings around the reptilians, different kinds, and a lot of information. And it is interesting because it completely is in contrast with what is out there. Yeah.
Did you ever figure out to what race the red reptilian belonged to?
I do know. It's not something I've come out publicly with yet. And the main reason for that is because I'm still developing my own, I wouldn't say, we're always developing deeper connections, but I think there's a lot of work I'm doing with them. They're very, very interested in the progression, we'll say, of my psychic development. And so they have an invested interest in helping me with that development. And so I'm still, I guess, in the midst of that. And it's, something that I'm still working through, and I'd like to explore more before sharing. But also, they don't actually work with, I don't know if any, maybe one or two other humans on Earth. So they're a private group. They're not under the Draconian Collective. So they are a purebred race. They're a very ancient race, and they, as far as I'm aware, desire at this point in time to remain behind the scenes in that regard. And so, like I said before, I really deeply respect and honor these connections. It's not something that I want to abuse. And so for that reason, I'd like to respect their wishes and only come forward when I really have, received that confirmation. And at the moment, it's not important. So.
Now, how tall was the red reptilian?
Yeah, I was actually thinking about this the other day. So I thought it was roughly around between, say, 10 to 12 feet, right? But if I'm correct, and I think I am, in the fact that I was in the 5th density physical layers, potentially that would add some height. So I think that in reality, we could be looking at like a 15, 20 foot being, but I perceived it to be roughly 12 foot.
Because you're in the astral. So yeah. I guess our perception of what is totally different.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Now, can you explain how it looked like? The face?
Yeah. So it was very like dragon-like. And that was the first thing that I really, really noticed, was that it gave me, I just kept thinking of a dragon. It was red. It had red eyes. Its horns were they came out backwards more. And they were like a bit smaller, like they weren't super long. They were probably only like that, about, that long. His skin was like incredibly thick. Like I felt reptiles before, and it was similar to what we would deem reptilian, like the alligator or something like that, crocodile or a snake, but it wasn't. It was very like armor, almost like an outer armor. That's what it was, very thick and hard. And he had a tail. The earth-based reptilians, they don't have tails. The red reptilian, its face was more, so it had like nose like not a snout, like kind of like holes that kind of were where like the mouth snout area would be. The only, it's funny, the only pictures that I've ever found that come close to depicting what this being looks like is on this game Skyrim that I recently started playing. And I've never played Skyrim before, and I started playing, and when I realized you can make a reptilian character, or Argonian, I think it's called.
Yeah.
And I made it red, and it was happening before my eyes, and I was going, oh my gosh, I'm making the being that I see, like. So that was a pretty cool experience. But I mean, I've not seen anything online that depicts anything that he looks like or close.
Well, yeah, a red reptilian is really a first for me.
Yeah.
Like, could you go into detail? What's your relationship with that being?
I really, really, I can't describe this kind of like love and respect, but it's something that is so deep. Like, its energy pulls me completely out of this reality to a point that I actually have to force myself to try to stay grounded sometimes here, because I'm so, like, I can feel my consciousness. I can feel myself wanting to be drawn back into that forever. Like, I just want to be there. And a lot of the time I find it difficult because I have to force myself to try to stay grounded and fit in here, so that I can get on with my day-to-day tasks. But the energy that it has is very overwhelming and very, very strong. I can put on like some particular frequencies, particular music, and because I've been listening to these things for well over a couple of years now, almost every day, I can take myself within seconds into that energetic state where I'm able to make almost immediate contact. And especially so as well with the earth-based reptilians. They're very, very responsive, and they come, both of them, the red and the earth-based reptilians, have a lot of activation codes and things like that they utilize, where they'll, give them to you telepathically or in your mind's eye, and then I'm able to utilize those in the future to, I guess, like sit with that symbol, and immediately it activates information. Yeah.
You've a theme that you do talk about a lot is going in the astral. Now, is it a form of out-of-body experience? Or is it something that happens when you sleep, then you leave your body, or?
These experiences are something that I find it really hard to, I think our English language is so clunky and limited, and we can't quite conceive with our mind, I don't believe, the complexity as to what's really going on. And so I use the word astral extremely loosely. I have these experiences and I'm extremely lucid almost every single night. It's all I've ever known. And so I just thought that that's what dreaming was, to be honest. They're very, very exhausting experiences. Sometimes I wish I could turn them off. They leave me waking up each day with a sense of having experienced, it's like watching like an intense action movie for 24 hours and then just being like, okay, now start your day. And it's just kind of like, and you've got all of that running through your body and your emotions and on every level. So it's, I do find it difficult to analyze them, but when I'm there, I'm extremely lucid, as I am, as a lot of the time, as real as it is here. However, when I'm with the reptilians, sometimes, and I've mainly experienced this more with the earth-based reptilians, is that they'll, and I don't quite know how they do it, but they put me in some sort of like sedative state. So I sometimes find myself coming out of that and a little bit more conscious than I think they would like or they would prefer. Once I am at that point, usually I must respond in a way that they start becoming more conscious that I'm responding, and I'm starting to become more conscious. And they will then, I suppose, like reintroduce me back into that state again. So sometimes you feel like you're being pulled in and out, sometimes a little bit consciously. So there may be like blackout spots that I don't remember as much, and then times that I've like maybe woken up and been quite conscious to what's going on. That's when a lot of these experiences, say like with the Mantis and the Essassani, facilitating work on my being, on my body, or maybe with the reptilians in fitting some sort of device to my higher level layers, something like that. But in general, I'm quite conscious of what's going on.
Now, I know that the Essassani seem to be I think Bashar is also an Essassani. So could you like get into who they are?
I don't know. I love Bashar, and it's something that his content's something that I used to listen to years ago. I haven't. I don't really anymore listen to too many channelers and things like that. So I've never really known too much about what Daryl Anka or Bashar has said about the Essassani. All I know is my own experiences. They always appear in a. I've only ever channeled them, or I've only ever channeled them, though I have had 2 experiences on board their ships, but I don't really remember too much contact with them. But when I have channeled them, it's been in a medium to deeper level trance state generally, and they usually come in as a blue orb. They are so fast. Their energy is like they are pew, 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 bouncing off the walls. Like they have a lot of energy, and they have a lot of excitement, and they have it really would be like a child on like crack. Like it's just it's so intense and loving, and desire to connect, and they desire for us to just have experiences, if that makes sense. So through just being connected, all of my experiences are somehow eventually felt and experienced by them, and that brings them the greatest level of joy.
Have you ever seen a UFO up close, or like ever do a C5? I think we talked about that perhaps.
Not the C5. I've downloaded the app, and I have like played the sounds, and I've not really gotten into that too much. I've had 2 experiences where I've definitely seen something, and my best friend was there for one of them, so I know like at least I've got one witness for one of them, and the other one, it was good black. It was the same sort of like weird black triangle craft that I've seen in my dream states. It was for such a split second that you know, often a lot of these things leave yourself scratching your head like, did I just imagine all of this? Like, but then it piles on to such a degree that you're like, I can't just, you know, I can't ignore this. I've seen, not in this reality, in with my physical eyes, but in the dream states I've been on craft, and also through deep trance as well, been I think taken through maybe memories or just shown things. But yeah.
Okay, well, since you talked about being on a craft, can you describe what you saw? Because I've never had the chance of like waking up or being conscious on a craft.
Yeah, so a few of them are different. One of them was like, it looked really, really small from the outside, and all I remember was that it didn't really look like anything. It didn't even really look like a door. It was more just like probably a portal, like just this kind of like really small round thing. And I watched a few go in, and I don't even really remember what happened before I just kind of got pushed in. But once I was in, it's like this such a big room, but it doesn't really have depth, if that makes sense. Like, it's really hard to be like, where does this room stop? Like, it just feels like, but there is, because I could see like all around me was like, it was circular, right? And all around was what I would naively just term as glass or something that you could see through. But only when you look at it and project like your consciousness and connect with it, is that able to occur. So like just looking around, you might not see anything unless you're really connecting with the ship itself, because I think the ship, it was the ship that was like a being, like it was the ship itself is alive, I suppose, in a sense. And so they have an orb, and the orb there was a big podium, like a tall podium, and there was an orb on top, and there was a number of beings standing around the orb. And I think through the orb, they were able to potentially like move this craft, direct the craft, like connect their consciousness and direct it that way. And there was also inside the ship, there's fixed portals. So I don't know if it's something that they can ever alter and change and this and that, but when I was there, it was a fixed portal on the wall itself as well. Other times I've had these experiences that I've been on and off so quickly that my consciousness, I think, changed it, like tried to give meaning to it. So it was like, you're on a train or like you're on an aeroplane. But when you have enough of these experiences and enough ones where you see the truth, it's not hard to kind of put it all together.
Mm. Could you like describe again the portal, the size of it, how it looked like?
Yeah. So the portal was probably a bit bigger than my head, I suppose. Like I remember just looking at it from the outside thinking like, well, this is stupid. Like, I didn't really give much thought to it though, because I just kind of like did what I thought, like I just followed them all in. And then I didn't look back, I don't believe, that time anyway. The one inside the ship was much bigger. It was, if I had to say how big it was, maybe like 2 or 3 meters. And it was, I don't remember the first one I went to get into the ship, whereas the one that was on the wall was like active in the sense that there was like you could hear almost like some sort of energetic, like you could hear something, you could hear it.
It's a bit sad you don't remember too much about the first one. You don't recall the color? Did it have color?
Yeah, they're both just dark, like black.
Because I woke up in 2013 with a black, I called it a black hole in my bedroom doorway.
Huh.
And it wasn't bigger than this.
No.
So I had a portal in my bedroom. And after that, that's when the shadow people came through. And 6 foot tall, 5 of them in the bedroom. I woke up, I was super drugged up. And so I got a drawing about that. But so yeah, December 2013, I was dating an abductee at the time. I wake up, my head's facing the doorway. So again, like I just woke up, it's somewhat cold, in Canada. And I see like maybe like a foot, or like maybe a foot tall or about this big, this wide, a black hole in front of my face. So it's, it's parallel with the bedroom entrance. Okay.
Yeah.
And so the whole thing happened really fast, but for starters, what my brain registered was it was either black or matte gray, like darkish, more like black grayish. But then the size kicked in. It didn't have any depth. So at first I thought it was a disc, but then it's probably a black hole or again a portal, which I've never seen before. And then my brain registers, hey, there's nothing holding it in place, and that's when the fear kicks in. The light switch is just above my head, so I jump up, turn the switch on. My fiance at the time wakes up, and she says, "What's going on?" And then I tell her the story. She says, "No, I'm not waking up because of that. I'm waking up because there's a man talking to me in my head while sleeping, and he was saying EMP nonstop, electromagnetic pulse. So something was happening within the bedroom or the house. So I guess we were being warned. So it takes about half an hour. We fall back asleep, and I wake up again, but I'm seeing movement from the bedroom entrance into the bedroom, like the from the portal itself. But I'm all because I'm looking downwards, so I'm seeing sort of like movement feet. I black out. I wake up. This time I'm leaning, facing towards my fiance, and I do have glasses, but I can see fairly well in the dark without them. And so I'm looking around, and I'm super drugged up, like waking up from an operation. And what I'm seeing is in front of my bed and on her side of the bed, at least four. One in front of the bed, at least four on her side of the bed. They're at least 6 feet tall. And why I see 6 feet is because I'm 6 foot, and the bedroom closets, I've got two of them, and they were about like my height. So, and like they were like very broad shouldered beings, like something like a football player wearing a cape. So I'd see only the outline of the figure, but I could see it was black, but blacker than the darkness itself. But I could see through it because I could still see the closets. So they're moving around, and I'm drugged up, and but I'm able to raise my arm and say hi. And as soon as I do that, I black out, and I wake up. Now this time I'm standing. I'm looking downwards to my feet. And I realize I'm probably naked because I'm barefoot and I'm wearing hospital robes. I black out again, and I wake up the next morning.
Really?
Yeah. So you're the first to ever talk about a black hole. So that's why I was drilling you about the actual color and shape of it. So
funny that you say like no depth, because I didn't there was no sense of depth either that I could understand. And what's really interesting as well is that that's not the first similarity that we've had in our experiences, because I know that was it with the Mantis? The
face, that how it morphed, how it appeared to me. It was somewhat like transparent.
Yeah. And it did it originally appear as a gray?
I know. Well, it didn't morph into another face. That I just woke up in the morning. I felt something was like hovering in the air, and then that's when I started concentrating on the face, and I could only see an outline. Then I had to start to fixate into the center of the face, and that's when. Then I started to realize what I was looking at. That's
right. And that's more or less, that was really like the beginning of my experiences with the Mantis, was that seeing that projected face. And the more that I concentrated on that, obviously over time it developed and things like that.
Yeah. But when I woke up to seeing that, like it did take a few seconds before I actually saw it. And then actually knowing, like looking at it, and then I realized, okay, it's probably a ghost, because I didn't know anything about ETs. And so I looked at it for like 20 seconds, and then I had the feeling like go back to sleep. So, and for some reason I was super calm. Who would have thought? And I just, leaned over and I fell asleep with my girlfriend.
Now, a black hole, that's actually funny that it's been brought up, because I've never really talked about it too much, but I don't know, maybe I just don't find it interesting, but these are something that I see like frequently. Actually, like a significant, there's always and it must, I don't know whether it's the same ship, but I just remember that one experience. However, in my dreams, at least once every couple of weeks, probably, I'll be having an experience where I have to transport myself somehow, and the Earth-based reptilians, the work I'm doing with them, a lot of the time they help facilitate this kind of like transportation, and I've sometimes wondered whether there's a connection there, because since I've been working with them consciously, I seem to be seeing these black portals quite frequently, and it's always right before I travel. So wow. Yeah.
Well, you're the first one to ever talk about black portals, at least that I've interviewed, and so that's really cool getting confirmation tonight. Yeah. Now you talked about the Earth realm reptilians. So how did you come about to meeting them?
The Earth-based reptilians were, I didn't actually know that they were who I was working with, but I was very aware of their energy. So once I realized, so again, that same channel was able to help me with that information, and identified that it was them. And I knew straight away that it was them because I know their energy. There's two of them and they work together in unison with me. One of them is malevolent neutral. The other one is more neutral, at least again towards me. I'm not sure about others. And when I say malevolent, a lot of these traits and things are brought out through, like their training and their warfare and their things that they have to go through. They are very, very powerful beings. So they have learnt to be powerful, and they express that dominance. But they've given me like some activation tools and codes. So now what I'm able to do, and I was given those codes prior to realizing who they were. But now that I know that it's the Earth-based reptilians, the symbols I was given are very, it makes a lot of sense. And so I'm able to just, focus on these symbols, and basically I get a lot of information downloaded. I can pull, like they've helped me through channeling sessions with a couple of people, and gain some really important information about their soul's journey and their higher self, and their connections. And they are also based over in Europe, which is, I've spoken about this before, like I think the temporal atmosphere over there allows them to, like it facilitates the work that they, or what they need to be able to facilitate the like traveling. And some of that travel is what I do, underground, assisting like in the dream realms, in the higher states of consciousness, assisting a lot of like souls underground that have become either trapped or tortured down there, that don't know where they are. They're in a state of complete either disillusion, like they're trapped in a consciousness sense. So just helping them, like assist them in understanding what's happened and helping them move forward. And the technology that the Earth-based reptilians are able to provide me helps me do that.
So they do seem to be more, friendly than a lot of the bad reptilians that people do tend to talk about.
Look, I don't know if, friendly might not be the first word that pops into my mind, but they're just, they're different. You know, we have all these different archetype, and a lot of the time these guys come from places where they have completely different archetypal energies in their system than we do. So there would be archetypes that we couldn't conceive, that would blow our mind. And so the way that they behave, we don't always necessarily understand that to a great depth. And I think that there's a lot of fear, because we, again, don't understand some of those archetypal energies and the nature of them. And these beings are very, very proud, very, they're all about tradition, and they have, many, many practices that they do, and they're very dedicated, and they are very honest. They're very highly like telepathically skilled, and so I wouldn't say that they are necessarily like overly friendly, but they are definitely desirous to, like, they desire to connect with us, to the ones that don't hold fear, because, you know, they possess a very powerful vibration, and there's a lot of fear and fabrication that goes around. And when we're holding that fear, even at a subconscious level, they're going to be conscious of that, and you know, obviously not want to connect if you're holding that.
Yeah, that reminds me, a lot of people ask me about C5, and I tell them, don't, like, do it. You don't have to, like, need an app, or you don't need like to pay $50 with a tour. You can do it on your own, and as long as you're in the right mindset, you know, and the right heart, like your heart's really out there, and you know, things happen.
Honestly, like, my reptilian connections have provided me with more of a sense of knowing, self-empowerment, and a depth of who I am, than any other connection I've experienced so far. They've never done anything to make me think otherwise, to fear them. They've never, they've always protected me, and I've always felt so incredibly protected with them. Yeah.
Do you know why why did they come to you? Is there a reason?
So again, there's a few. So with the Earth-based reptilians, I'm very, like I said, I'm not biased, and I don't judge, and I'm very, very open. And I hold a degree, like, my higher self, I have a degree of, like, fearlessness. Nothing scares me. I'm really not frightened. I really possess little fear. Even in this life, like, my fear levels it doesn't take much to it takes a lot to rock me. And so that's one reason that they were interested in connecting to begin with, is because I don't hold that fearful vibration. I'm open.
Mm-hmm.
I'm authentic. I have a very grounded sense of who I am, I think, and I'm very open. I've always been open to these things. But also, I suppose, whatever journey my higher self is on, and my soul, the development of those psychic abilities was expanding at quite a degree. It potentially caught their interest. The playoff for them, I suppose, like the upside for the connection on their side, is that they're able to analyze how their consciousness affects the human, and the aspects, you know, from a human perspective. Once I start integrating that reptilian energy, and watching myself, you know, drop those fears and drop those and become a more powerful being, those, like, innate little tweaks on a cellular level, I think that the reptilians find that very interesting, on seeing the effects of their own reptilian natures upon the human, and how it can advance and enhance our lives, which is not something that's talked about. It's something that's always, like, again, like I said, it's always feared, and it's always there's fabrications and falsities said about the reptilians, whereas it gives them, which I think is fantastic traits to embody, you know, courage, fearlessness, bravery, respect, honor.
Things that they do respect as well. So I guess they saw a part of them in you as well.
Yeah.
Because you know, I've interviewed in the past Misha Johnston, Charmaine from the UK, Misha's from the States, and a friend of mine, Nancy Tremaine, also had really positive experiences with the reptilians. So I'm glad you brought, like, a new way of looking at them to everyone. Do you want to get into the image, the photo that you took not too long ago?
Yeah.
Could you describe what we're going to be looking at?
Yeah, absolutely. So it was probably start of the year, around January or February, and I took a photo outside one night, and I was sitting there don't really know why I took a photo. I think I took one or two because the clouds looked nice. Then what happened was the clouds had moved in front of the moon, and it had created a letter C. And I thought, I had a friend who, his name started with C, and I thought, oh, that's really cool. I'm going to send him this picture because it's like the clouds have made a C. And I took the picture, and then there was like this strange like S that just was on the picture. And that I was like, okay, that's really strange. So I didn't notice it I think I sent him the photo first before I realized, zoomed in, saw that it was not only a squiggle, which was weird, but it was actually an S. And obviously my name starting with S as well. I was kind of like, that's super cool. And then took this, like I sat there for like an hour and took photo after photo after photo with different light, with different angles, like possibly changing all the settings on my phone, trying to recapture that with the same kind of like squiggle. I couldn't get anything similar at all. And then I eventually took one more photo. I think I'd gone inside, and I went back outside later that night, took another photo, and that same little squiggle appeared, but in a different symbol. And I zoomed in on the symbol because it looked really familiar, and I flipped it round, and it was actually something that I draw. Like I've drawn this as a channeling like symbol that I've channeled multiple times over the years. Like it's been something that I've drawn at least maybe like 60 or 70 times randomly. Yeah.
Wow, interesting.
Yeah.
Because it really doesn't look like a flare, so it's definitely something
Yeah.
cool.
I have no I have no words to understand, but all I know is that night I connected really, really heavily, deeply with the Earth-based reptilians. And then after that, my connection has always remained as stable or more with them. So it was potentially maybe like, again, some sort of activation, at least the symbol. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Got any other stories that you might want to share? Or perhaps like a closing statement that you want to get out?
I just think in general, I mean, like, I know like with my Essassani children, they are probably the connection that has brought me the most joy because they are so childlike. But again, all of these different connections have helped shape different aspects of my beingness. And it's not so much, it's not so much the experiences that are the piece that we're looking for, because I think that we're all going around trying to find an answer or trying to have these experiences, especially the ones that are having them that may not be conscious or that are not having them. They want these experiences, they desire them, but I think a lot of the time our expectations do get in the way, and we have to remember that those experiences are so fleeting, and what's important is that the journey is infinite and it's forever. And it's really like the accumulation of all of those little experiences that gives such depth to the entire journey. So, to the ones that aren't quite there yet, those connections will come. You just really need to focus on the desire that you have to connect with these beings, and also do the inner work, because I've spent I didn't go through any dark shadow any time recently. I'm in my mid-30s. I was going through my dark shadow times when I was in my early teen years. So you've really got to like delve in and spend years upon years doing work on yourself and expanding yourself to get yourself ready energetically to be able to be in resonance with these highly energetic beings.
That's beautifully said. If someone might want to contact you, can they contact you through your website, the YouTube channel?
Yeah, so I've got my YouTube channel, which is Gaia Intuitive, and I also have Facebook, which is where a lot of people do contact me and book the appointments. I do astrology readings, I do tarot readings as well, which is something that I absolutely adore. It's been a huge part of my journey and my growth, expansion. I also run sessions just like this where we sort of like talk about, and I'm able to help guide maybe the clients on their journey, whether it's doing some of that reprogramming work, dissolving the ego really at the beginning of the journey, or whether it's, integrating their new connections and things and establishing a more depth around that.
Awesome. So thank you so much for coming on tonight. I had loads of fun.
Thank you for having me.
And I'm really glad we connected tonight because I got more confirmation on the black hole. So
beautiful.
Thank you.
It always happens for a reason.
So to those watching, hope you enjoyed tonight's interview. More interviews coming up. I'm your host, Mr. Gray, and I'll see you guys next time. So take care, everyone. Hello, everyone. This is Mr. Gray, and thanks for watching today's episode. If you are an abductee, contactee, or experiencer, and you believe that your story could help others, please feel free to contact me through my YouTube channel email. When it comes to experiencers, the ET phenomena, and the future, remember, truth will out.